Joining us now, Ben Tribbett. Ben, longtime Democratic guru, consultant, and analyst. You can follow him at Not Larry Sabato. And most of Ben's predictions come out, although I've got a better percentage than him because sometimes he has to go with his heart rather than his head. So we got to get that straightened out. Ben, good to have you back, man.
Good morning, John.
Okay, so since yesterday, I got a bunch of text when you were on. That's why I had to have you back. And I've got one here from Michael in Alexandria, tuned in yesterday, and he said the delegation leader in Virginia cast the allotted votes, and it doesn't matter if you're seated or not. You can be late or in the bathroom or just sick that day. He said Virginia will go exactly as the voters wanted it to go. This is from Michael, in Alexandria. Now, but we just had Morton Blackwell on, Ben, who you know, who said that it's going to come down to these rules changes. And he said that Reince Priebus has the votes in his pocket to change that, what is it, Ben, Rule 40B, that says right now the only people can be put in nomination have to have won 8 states. That's only going to be Trump and Cruz. But he said Priebus has the votes to change that. So shenanigans can go on there. What do you think?
Well, I think all the rules are up in the air. Whenever you have a convention, the rules are not settled until the Rules Committee meets, and then the convention convenes, and the delegates that show up decide the rules. So you can always have proposed rules in advance, but any convention can make its own rules. And so anyone that tells you this is how it's going to work, they don't know that, because there are no rules at this point. And so, you know, could you unbind the delegates on the first ballot? Yes. Could you make them physically attend? Yes. Could you unbind the delegates to not be able to nominate someone for 8 states? Absolutely. The rules are never set until a convention convenes and the convention approves those rules.
So basically what Morton is saying is the Rules Committee that is made up of 112 people, he said, a man and a woman from each state and territory. So there's 6 territories, 50 states, 112 people. He said they meet Wednesday prior to the convention.
Right, and the Rules Committee puts forward to the convention the draft rules. But even the Rules Committee, all they're putting forward is the draft rules. It still has to be approved by the delegates to the convention.
So they put together the draft rules, right? And then Monday comes, and then the entire delegation would have to vote up or down on those rules, or do they vote by line item?
That's right. They have to. Well, someone could amend them.
Right.
But once it gets to the final vote, once the amendments are finished, then, and usually at national conventions it's pretty well controlled, where it's difficult to make amendments and whatnot. But this is a different type of ballgame.
Okay,
this is a whole new world.
You would get an indication right there on Monday where the convention's going, right? If there were all these rules changes that didn't favor, say, Trump or Cruz, and they passed, that would give you an indication of where the convention as a whole is headed, right?
It could. I mean, look, here's where it really plays in interesting. Say, for example, the Kasich delegates. Mm-hmm. The Kasich delegates obviously would want to change the rules to allow their guy to be nominated. They might make a coalition with the Trump delegates so that Trump might be trying to work with them so that they don't go to Cruz on a second ballot. And you could see the Trump delegates join the Kasich delegates to allow Kasich to be nominated in order to try to build that relationship with them so that they would vote for Trump on the second ballot.
Right. I think that could happen. So let's go back to the last so-called open convention or convention where one candidate didn't go in with the number they needed going into the convention. That was 76 in Kansas City, Reagan and Ford. I was there. I remember 2 things about it. One was that the Reagan people wanted to have a vote on something else where people were not bound. And so they put in a rule. The rule change was that going forward, the Republican nominee would have to name his vice presidential candidate prior to the convention. Now, that happens now all the time, but back then it did not. And remember, Reagan had picked Richard Schweiker from Pennsylvania. So the Reagan people thought, well, if we can get a vote on that, we can show the nation where the convention's headed. Well, that blew up in their face because it got beat. And then everybody knew Ford was going to win. And then the other thing that ties into that, what Reagan did, is they picked Schweiker, who was a Republican from Pennsylvania, more with a moderate wing, and he was best friends with the chairman of the Pennsylvania delegation. Can't think of his name. All those delegates were uncommitted, and they were trying to get those delegates to go to Reagan, but that never happened either. So they went 0 for 2 and they got beat. So could a similar thing happen?
Sure. I mean, once you start playing this out, look, I've always felt like the most likely outcome of this is that Trump will fall short of the delegates' needs on the first ballot.
Right.
And that he'll end up forming a ticket with Kasich.
Right.
If he falls short. Because it's very easy for him to come together, or maybe even Rubio, but I doubt it. Mm-hmm. I think Kasich's the most likely. And, if Kasich comes in with 200 delegates, he's not going to be nominated for president, but he probably could get himself on the ticket by offering up his delegates to one side or the other.
And then it would be up to him. But the delegates that he has are bound, right? So who's to say that? See, this is the thing. His delegates are bound, right?
Right, and but you could also have the delegates vote to unbind on the first ballot. If people want to cast a vote for someone, John, this actually is a process and a vote. There actually is a thing, and I don't think that because there is physically a vote. You're not just the first ballot is not just announcing your state's results. There is a vote because you have so many unbound delegates, and I don't think anyone has ever really dealt with the fact that you could have a vote that's different than what it's supposed to be on the first ballot. No one's talked about what that means, right? If even in the Electoral College, there's times where someone casts a vote they're not supposed to cast.
Right, I think that's happened twice. Somebody voted for Wallace, I remember, and then somebody voted for Reagan in '76.
Right, and the Electoral College, obviously, you're bound in that as well to your candidate. But there's nothing that stops someone. So if you're a Trump delegate and you vote for Cruz on the first ballot, so it's then it really comes down to whether your state chairman, is he going to announce the votes that were cast? Is he going to announce the votes he was supposed to announce?
Well, the Republican Party of Virginia is telling me if they don't change rules, then you're not going to vote. Basically, the chairman of the Virginia delegation, I guess that would be John Whitbeck.
Well, they are going to vote in some states, and they are going to vote on the floor because there's people that are uncommitted. Now, the question is, would Virginia not pass out ballots and just announce a result?
That's what they told me they would do. That's what they told me they would do.
I mean, that sounds very, very questionable to me that you would have some states that are casting ballots and others that are not. Very strange.
Okay, so that's what they told me that Virginia was going to do.
Does that sound strange to you, John?
No, I think the voters made a decision, and what Whitbeck's people said is they're simply going to submit the decision based on what the voters made. If it goes to a second ballot, everybody is unbound. But they specifically said whether you're there or not, or you went to the bathroom, or you took the day off, it doesn't matter. They're going to submit what the voters said, whatever the allocation is. So here's my question, right? All this stuff is going to be going on, and we're covering.
I don't think the convention rules are going to allow some states to vote and some states not to vote on the same ballot.
Well, we'll have to see. As you and Mr. Blackwell said, the rules committee that meets can just make up their own. I mean, everything can change, right?
Right, but I've never heard of a convention where some delegations had to vote and others didn't on the same ballot. That sounds to me like, again, we talked about this a few months ago with John Whitbeck. Like, he's sort of a rookie, he hasn't done this stuff before.
Right.
That would be unprecedented of a convention having some delegations vote and others not vote. But really, it would be. I've never heard of anything like that.
Well, and then then the other thing is, then they can take a roll. Like I remember in '76, New Jersey voted, and somebody disputed, or New Jersey submitted their whatever it is, how many people for what. And so one of the guys, I remember this specifically. Well, one of the guys, how I remember these names is unbelievable. The guy's name was Don Katz, right? And so he got up. He said, "I want my delegation polled individually." And so they all had to get up to the microphone, I don't know, 80, 90 of them in New Jersey at the time, whatever the number was, and they had to say for Reagan.
Well,
and this was on the first ballot.
Because that's a common thing that's in Robert's Rules of Order. Whenever you're announcing a vote by delegation like that somebody I think has a parliamentary right to pull the delegation. So,
Right.
again, this is probably just John Whitbeck not knowing what he's doing yet.
By the way, he's getting a challenge now from Vince Haley, what works for Newt Gingrich, running for chairman. We're not sure if he can get on the ballot because he filed, paid his $2,500, then he withdrew his candidacy, but he did actually send the letter, we understand, to the RPV. He sent it to his backers, so now there's in dispute. But anyway, he says he's back in the race. That'll be decided April 30th. So, Ben, my question is, look, I'm going to be on Radio Row in Cleveland and Philadelphia. Are you going to be there with us, especially in Cleveland?
I haven't decided yet. I'm leaning towards it, but I haven't decided yet. And I'm hoping you're not on Radio Row, John. I'm hoping you're going to be a delegate, but I think after the cruise people get finished with you in the 4th, I think you probably will be on Radio Row.
Well, I'm going to be on Radio Row either way because I'm on 6 to 10 a.m. and not a lot happens at the convention, as you know, before 10 a.m. Look, but let's get to our race, Ben. I know you don't think we're going to do very well. We do. We got a very, very comprehensive plan in place. My wife, Ann, though, really wants you to run the campaign. She made me ask you again today. So what do you think?
I think you probably should get a Republican to it.
He'll do that. But look, there's 17 candidates in my race. 3 of us are the official Trump team, myself, Ann, and Councilman Robert Ike. We signed a lot of people up. We got a very comprehensive plan, starting with our big rally May 12th at 5 p.m. at Wild Wing Cafe in Chesapeake, where we have a special guest speaker, not to be announced right now, but we have a comprehensive plan. But, you know, my opposition is split 13 ways. I think for us that bodes well.
Well, it could. Here's my prediction. It will play out just like the 9th District Convention, and there will be one Trump delegate elected, and that one Trump delegate will be Ann Fredericks.
That is Ben's prediction, that Ann Fredericks is the one Trump delegate. We'll see how it plays out, Ben. My prediction is we win all 3. But if we do not win all 3, I definitely predict that Ann is going to have the most votes, no question. I'm the one that's like struggling for survival on the ticket.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to be about 7th.
Yeah, I got a lot of enemies. But hopefully some of my fans will show. But chances are I'll be 7th. But if I would agree with your analysis. If I was going to say who would have the most votes at the convention in Wakefield, I think it's going to be Ann. I think she's going to come in first. And I don't think it's going to be close.
I mean, in the 9th District Convention, you saw one of the people who was elected was Jordan Labiosa, who, remember, we talked about before with the Susan Stimson campaign.
Right.
And then he, I think he was once online just a couple years ago on a blog saying that he thought Barack Obama might have been a gay prostitute before he became president.
Yes, that is.
And he's one of the
accurate.
people that will be voting at the convention for the Republican Party of Virginia. So congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I remember that specifically. And, you know, I tell these young people, you know, just don't put that stuff on the internet because it follows you around forever. You got enough issues as you get older with dumb things that you do. Don't create your own issues. But look, you know, these things, we'll see how it plays out. We feel pretty confident that we can get our ticket elected. But Ben's prediction is Ann wins, so she's going to be excited about that, Ben. And she's hoping you'll be in Cleveland. And she figures...
Well, I hope she comes and visits you as a delegate on Radio Row, you know? She's going to be dealing with more important things.
Well, yes, I'll be on the air like I always am. And hopefully you'll be there with me. And then if I'm not a delegate, the good news is we can go over to Harrah's at night. So that's...
Absolutely. The horseshoe is there. Absolutely.
That's right. It is across the street. Like you walk out, it's there. I mean, it's unbelievable.
We need to have the horseshoe sponsoring your show that week.
We probably do. When I went to
Because that's all we're going to talk about. We're going to be like, convention. How did you do at the horseshoe?
When I covered the Cleveland debate, I walked outside to get something to eat. I looked up, and there's the casino.
Yeah,
I'll see you,
awesome.
Ben. Thanks. We're out of time. We want to thank Ben Tribbett. I'll be right back.